Welcome to operating system class. Today we are discussing about demand paging. We had already discussed about symbol paging. In symbol paging, the user process or the logical memory is divided into number of pages and the physical memory is divided into number of frames. Then for executing a process, all the pages of that process should be in the main memory. So we need to bring all the pages in main memory for executing that process. These pages need not be in contiguous memory locations. This is in symbol paging. A problem with this approach is that it is not initially need the entire program in main memory. For example, suppose the program starts with a list of available options from which the user is to select. That is a menu driven program. Then for executing the program, we need to load the entire program into the main memory. That is loading the executable code for all the options regardless of whether or not an option is ultimately selected by the user. An alternative strategy for this is to load the pages only as they are needed. This technique is known as demand paging and is commonly used in virtual memory systems. So with this demand paged virtual memory, pages are loaded only when they are demanded during the program execution. That is, the pages that are never accessed are thus never loaded in the physical memory. That is, only those pages which are referred by the processor is bring to the main memory. So in a demand paging system, as in symbol paging, you use a swapper to swap in the pages from the disk or in the secondary memory. For executing a process, we swap it into memory. Rather than swapping the entire process into the memory, we use a lazy swapper. That is, the swapper used in the demand paging is called a lazy swapper. A lazy swapper never swaps a page into the memory unless that page will be needed. Then this figure shows the transfer of pages from the disk to the main memory. Here there are two programs, program A and B in main memory. Program A is swapped out from the main memory to the disk and the program B is swapped into the main memory. Here the swapper used is called a lazy swapper. Now let's see the basic concepts of demand paging. When a process is to be swapped in, the pager guesses which pages will be used before the process is swapped out again. Instead of swapping in a whole process, the pager brings only those pages into the memory. There is no need to bring all the pages of the process into the main memory. Only those pages which are referred by the processor are brings into the memory. So it avoids the reading into memory pages that will not be used anyway. It reduces the swap time and the physical memory needed. So with this scheme, we need some sort of hardware support to distinguish between the pages that are in main memory and the pages that are on the disk. So to distinguish a page that is in main memory or not in main memory, we can use a valid invalid bit. When this bit is set to valid, the associated page is legal and it is in main memory. And if the bit is set to invalid, the page is either not valid, that is the address of the process is not in the range of its logical address space, or it is valid but it is not in the main memory, it is on the disk. Usually the valid invalid bit is stored into the page table. The page table entry for a page that is brought into memory is set as usual, but the page table entry for a page that is not currently in memory is either simply marked invalid or it contains the address of the page on the disk. This figure shows the valid invalid bit scheme used in the demand paging. Here the logical memory is divided into 8 different pages, and all the pages are stored into the disk. Out of these 8 pages, only 3 pages, that is page 4, 6 and 9 are in the physical memory. So in the page table, only those pages which are in the main memory, the valid invalid bit is set to valid. For all other pages, the valid invalid bit is set to invalid. Marking a page invalid will have no effect if the process never attempts to access that page. While the process executes and accesses the pages that are memory resident, execution proceeds normally. Then what happens if the process tries to access a page that was not brought into the memory? Access to a page marked invalid causes a page fault. That is, the processor tries to access a page which are not in main memory, then a page fault occurs. In paging hardware, it is in translating the address through the page table, it is noticed that the invalid bit is set and it causes a trap to the operating system. And this trap is the result of operating system's failure to bring the desired page into the main memory. We already told that if the processor tries to access a page that is not in main memory, then a page fault occurs. This figure shows the steps for handling a page fault. When the processor refers a page, it checks with the page table. The valid invalid bit of the corresponding entry in the page table is set to invalid. It identifies that the page is not in main memory. Then the processor temporarily stops the execution of instruction, and it is a trap to the operating system. Then it is the duty of the operating system to bring that page into the main memory. The operating system identifies the page in the disk. The page is permanently stored on the disk. Then it finds a free frame in the physical memory and bring the missing page into the physical memory. When we brought a page into the physical memory, we know that we need to update the page table. Then it resets the page table, and the processor can now restart the instruction. Once again, let's see the steps for handling a page fault. First step is we check an internal table for this process to determine whether the reference was a valid or invalid memory access. That is the page table. If the reference was invalid, we terminate the process. If it was valid but we have not yet brought in that page, we now page it in. Then the third step is we find a free frame by taking one from the free frame list. Then we schedule a disk operation to read the desired page into the newly allocated frame. When the disk read is complete, we modify the internal table kept with the process and the page table to indicate that the page is now in memory. Then we can restart the instruction that was interrupted by the trap. The process can now access the page as though it had always been in memory. After a page is brought into memory, the process continues to execute, faulting as necessary until every page that it needs is in main memory. At that point, it can execute with no more page fault. This scheme is called pure demand paging. That is, pure demand paging means the process can execute with no more page fault. It is called pure demand paging. Each instruction execution possibly causing multiple page faults per instruction. This situation would result in unacceptable system performance. Then the hardware to support the demand paging is same as the hardware for paging and swapping. Then we know that when a page fault occurs, the execution of instruction temporarily stop, and it can restart the execution after bringing that page into the main memory. Because we save the state of the interrupted process when the page fault occurs, we must be able to restart the process in exactly the same place and state, except that the desired page is now in memory and is accessible. Now let's see the performance of demand paging. For most computer systems, the memory access time denoted MA ranges from 10 to 200 nanoseconds. As long as we have no page fault, the effective access time is equal to the memory access time. If a page fault occurs, we must first read the relevant page from the disk and then access the desired word. That is, the effective memory access time increases. Let P be the probability of a page fault, then we would expect P to be close to 0. That is, we would expect to have only a few page fault. Then effective memory access time can be written as 1 minus P into MA plus P into page fault time.